Welcome everyone back to Fort Operating Base Lake Fork. I'm Greg Hill. I'm your host of your fishing show today. Today is March the 30th. This is going to be a weekly rundown plus a couple days for the last week, just to see how things are going out here on the water, and then again also talk about what I kind of see happening in the next week for you guys coming out here to fish at Lake Fork. Just for the getting into the water conditions, look, the lake is still about 1.5 feet low. So we're sitting right around 301.45. The water temperatures have been pretty stable. They're in main lake around 60 to 61 degrees in different places. And then of course back in the coves it's getting up in 64, 65, 66 degrees in different places. We had a little bit of a cold spell the night before, and it cooled the water off just a little bit, but the sun wasn't out a lot of the day, so it was kind of cloudy for a lot of the day, so the water didn't warm up as much. And today you can see it's cloudy, we've got overcast, but it's not very cold, so the water's not really cooling off. It's just not getting that sun to keep heating it up. Water clarity is stained. If you go down to the main lake areas, it's a little better. Back in the back of some of the coves, it can get less than a foot, but it's not really terrible. We haven't had just a dump of rain that has really clouded up the water, and we haven't had any big winds here just recently to kind of stir the water up. So we had just enough wind to make some of the point fishing good for the first time, for me at least, but not enough to stir the water up and get it really turbid. And then back, of course, if you're going back in these coves, going very to the back, you kind of want to look at these areas that they're behind the weed lines. Those behind the weed lines pieces are the ones that are really getting clear, and the ones that are really showing, in my opinion, easier to see the fish that are on bed. There are fish in areas where the water's not so clear, and depending on the depth of those beds it's pretty hard to see some of those fish. I was down at some of the creeks on the southern part of the lake yesterday. Just got there looking around, and of course we found any fish on bed, but they were a little harder to see because the water's fairly clear, but they were deeper, and they were kind of surrounded by the weeds. You really had to pay attention and try to pick up the image of some of those fish. It's not just like that fish is out there on a big white bed and it's just poking out at you like like a beacon, like catch me. It's not happening. So but that's kind of what I'm seeing for the water conditions. I ran around to some different parts of the lake yesterday because I didn't have clients this day, so I had some other stuff to do. So I went around myself and kind of drove around the lake and looked at a bunch of conditions in places I hadn't been. And of course, almost everywhere I went, I found some fish on bed. And I found a lot of beds though, which brings up a whole nother subject of discussion that'll take place, but that's what I'm basically seeing. So when it gets back to looking at what I'm going to do or what happened this last week, it was a great week, man. I just had a great week. I had two clients that I've had before, multi-day trips, 4 days and 2 days and another 2 day. So it's a lot of fun fishing with people that you've had fun fishing with in the past. You know them. The one family comes down from Colorado. It's a father and two sons. We've had a great time, and great time in the boat, and great time fishing, and just a lot of fun. Last year they had missed kind of some of the bed fishing, really big bed fishing, by almost a week or two, so the timing wasn't that great. This year they got a better timing on it, the warming trend. The first 2 days was kind of cold, and we still caught fish, but not as many. But we were still catching 4 to 5 pound fish on those days, but it was only like 5 of them. We only get like 4 to 5 bites. We were missing some, and then the following days always had warmed up, and man, all of a sudden the fish were just all over the place, and we were getting into them. So anyway, and that gets into almost what I saw happening during the week, and then is the fact that so a lot of people had moved offshore moved off to the bank. I tried, and I just I wasn't getting too much, so I decided to move on back up in the shallow water, and that's when I started catching them more. I initially thought the same thing, this cold weather would push them out, but I got back in some of these coves, it was 58 degrees, and they were still on bed. So at least the males were still on bed. When that water warmed up is when you really started to see the females start to come up again and get more pairs of them again. And that's just going to continue to get better and better here, I think. So, look, so for this week, what was I doing? It's kind of the same. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the same kind of things I've been doing, for the last probably 3 weeks. The majority of my fish, coming on creature baits, coming on this bait right here for the most part, and you can see it. And again, I don't have a sponsorship with these people, so you can find a creature bait that is similar to it. Remember to kind of think about the lure colors. If you are in somewhere that turbid water, try to throw a darker color one, get some darkness to it, I think. And if you're in the clear water, I'd stick with the greenish colors. This one is kind of nice because it has a purple on one side and then a dark purple and then the green on the other side. So, because I did throw like a blue jig, black and blue jig. You can see it here, and one of the pincers you see was taken off that thing by a fish, and that can help with some of those that turbid water also. And then if you're in pretty clear water and the fish get visibility and it looks like they're being aggressive, pick up a jig. Now this one's got rattles in it, and I gotta tell you, it's been hard for me to find lures that have rattles in for some reason. I don't know why. So you always get striking ones that have rattles in it and can't find them as much. They want you to buy those things and do an add-on, which I don't like doing. But anyway, so you can see this one. I've got this one decked out in pretty much bluegill colors, but I've also got a rage crawl, trailer on there. So this could be either a bluegill or a crawfish, depending on what angle the fish kind of sees it from. And that's those are kind of the things I'm throwing into the beds. I didn't I did have one out. So I'm also throwing like a red lizard. I'm sticking with the shorter ones for the most part because it's mostly the males that I'm throwing these at. The bigger females, I seem to be getting pretty good bites on the jig, on the larger jig bait. When the fish get up in size, they kind of need something bigger to threaten them. Sometimes a smaller creature bait's not enough, and you got to go to that bigger jig, to do it, I think. And then, so what I want to talk about, kind of just what I'm seeing out on the water and what I'm seeing other people do, and kind of give you some tips here. So, look, there's some. We pulled into one cove, and there are probably six to seven boats in there. And one of my clients said something like, "Oh man, this is this is probably surely it's probably picked over." And I said, "It's not picked over. Most likely, it's not picked over." I go down the banks fishing right behind people all the time, and I've got really good vision, and maybe I'm just looking harder or what it is, but I see a lot of fish that other people don't see. And it's not that the people can't see them. I think that they're just moving too quickly. If they do see them, then they're getting too close, and they're using lures that maybe they can see, but maybe the fish aren't attracted to it, kind of spook them. So let's think about this. So if you see a fish too late, don't worry about fishing it right then. Just mark it and move on. Come back to that fish, really. If it doesn't come back in 30 seconds or so, for a minute at the most, just move on to the other fish. Mark it and go back. If it's a worthwhile fish, then mark it and just come back to it. But look, I see people going down the bank, and they'll put the power poles down, and they're 10 feet away from the fish, and they're throwing a big white, crawtail, or something like that. It's real easy for them to see it, the crawtail, right? That's why they're throwing it. They can see it disappear. They can see when the fish takes it, and they can see it disappear. But how many white crawfish do you see out there? I don't know. I throw more natural colors around the beds, and I think I get more bites because of that. And it's harder for me to see the lure, and a lot of times I'm not seeing the lure, and that's okay. And I'm going to do a whole nother video on basically what I'm looking for to do this. And look, you guys need to hit the subscribe button down there to catch some of this stuff. Just not for that video, but also for I'm getting ready to do like a rod reel giveaway for my Temple Fork Outfitter rods and my quantum reels. But look, you got to hit the subscribe button down there to be a chance to win one of these things, or to get chosen for one of these things. But anyway, so they'll stop. They'll get 10 feet away. They're throwing a bait that doesn't really look that natural, and they're making big splashes with their casts. And then they wonder. I had one person once actually came up behind them. They were like, "Man, these fish just got lockjaw." I'm like, well, I told my customers, like, they don't have lockjaw. We came right down a bank behind 2 boats, and we probably got 3 or 4 fish right through there. All males. No females were sticking around for all that. I think all that traffic, but males that we would see, and then move on to the next fish. So you have to take your time, and they're not just going to poke out at you. You might just see part of a nose of one. You might see just the tail, coming up. If you see some beds and you're not really seeing, pitching them anyway. You might just not see it. There may be some grass outside. It's just camouflaged in, and you put that bait in there, and then they can see it. So, look, there's a lot of fish out here right now. There's a lot of fish out here on bed. And if you take your time and you're really looking, you got some good sun, then you can see them. You don't have to have really bright sun, though. If you've got calm water and just light, that's enough to see down into the clear water. You just have to make sure to go to the fishing spots that the wind is being blocked. If the wind's blowing the day, you got to get in the back of those coves that are totally blocked by the wind, and then you can have a chance at those kind of fish to kind of focus on those fish. It's one of my favorite things to do, to fish this way. So I really enjoy it, and I never pass on doing it if I can. So I kind of spend a lot of this time bed fishing. I move out if I have to, of course. You got to do whatever you got to catch fish, but if I can bed fish, I'm gonna want to do some bed fishing probably. So, okay, so we talked a little bit about the bed fishing, and talked about what I was doing with that. Now, the other thing that you can be doing right now, and I caught a couple nice fish yesterday, is just throwing zero spooks. I'm going out on the points now. Look for the points. I'm throwing the natural color, shad color, but I go out, and that's the super spook. It's a big one, and they were knocking it out of the water a bunch of places. I caught, between 3 and 5, and probably had 4 other bites, and maybe 2 got off. So they were definitely schooled up getting on the way back, and these looked like one was a female, and the others were all pre-stage males. It looked like no blown or tails or anything. So how do you find this place? Well, you go look for places that they're going to spawn, and then you move out on those points. And you move out on any kind of secondary point they have to pass by, especially get some wind going up on it, and throw at it. You throw the spooks. You can throw the chatterbaits. You can bites on this. This is the kind of chatterbait I'm throwing right now. Going with the greenish colors. I would go with white. Also, I've just got a green one on right now, but I am throwing like a shad color also. I'm throwing a smaller square bill. Crankbait goes down 2 to 3 feet, in those areas. Shad color. And then, of course, I'm throwing some bigger square bills too. And I'm throwing wake baits. I threw a bunch of things the other day, and really the stuff I got the most bite on was the spook. I got 2 get off of the crankbait, the smaller crankbait. I think I had 1 bite on the bigger one, but it just was on there for a second. It really didn't. I didn't get any kind of hook set into it at all. I don't know. Maybe I could hit some grass. For all I know. And then, of course, back in that grass area around where that the females are spawning, look, you can throw a swim bait. This is a Lake Fork Trophy Lures, swim bait with an underspin on it that'll work its way right through the grass. Like I said, I'm throwing the chatterbait back in the grass when I can. And I've thrown the spinnerbait, but I haven't been throwing it here. I didn't throw it much this last week, so I kind of got away from the spinnerbait for some reason. Maybe it's just because I'm just bed fishing so much. I've only got so much time. And then the other thing are flukes. So nice flukes. This one I kind of throw back in more clear water, and I start with a darker purple, dark blue one if it's in the water that's kind of murky. And then, basically what you really want to do is you want to make sure, I think I cut the rig off, but what you want to do is you want to work this on either a Carolina rig or a mini Carolina rig with a light weight, and put a swivel on it so that it doesn't get all twisted up on you. And take that with almost like maybe about 1.5 feet of a leader, and throw that back in this grass. Let that weight kind of go up and down that grass as you're pulling through. It'll pull the minnow and make it go down. The fluke, it'll make all kinds of crazy actions, and that's the way I've been getting some bites. So kind of a couple funny stories, from this last week. Again, I've got this young man who comes down from Colorado to fish with me. Now he's fishing back competitively back in the state now after fishing with me. It's just it's so much fun to see somebody develop and learn their fishing skills. And as the week went by, I was kind of working it and trying hard and trying to learn the techniques and learn all. And then by the end, his pitching got pretty well, and they could get in there. I'm still helping him out a little bit. But the really big thing is his confidence level on the bait and doing the rattles or the shakes or hops, and kind of learning the personality of these fish, so that you can know what kind of a presentation to give them in order to get them bites. So look, I like it because it's hunting. And you're around just hunting. You're looking for the biggest fish. Nobody asks everybody's a hunter why he doesn't shoot every deer he sees, right? So you don't have to fish every fish. You just move along, you pick a fish. If it's big enough, you want to keep it, not. But I'll tell you what, the people that were fishing that tournament, there should have been a ton of unders caught, because they were everywhere during that tournament last weekend on Sunday. And we were fishing. I had 3 guys in my boat, and we were catching fish everywhere. And a lot of people, we saw a guy caught one, but I heard it was over 8 pounds, but I'm not sure if it was long enough or not. He didn't have a measure stick. He was trying to get a measuring stick from somebody else just to make sure. I think he thought it was an over, but he had his own stick, something like that. So don't turn in a fish that's short. You get a ticket, to do that. If you do that type of stuff, you definitely don't want to do that. But look, we had a lot of, when you're doing this, don't be surprised when you have a lot of missed baits. And one of the things that he would say, like, I'm having a hard time seeing the bait. Like, that's okay. You don't need to see the bait. You can tell what the fish is doing you can tell where your lure is just by watching the fish for the most point. And again, I'm going to make a separate video of this because it takes more discussion than I want to put into this fishing report. And then you can just tell, and I can tell exactly where your lure is pretty much as you're watching the fish doing whatever it's doing, and then you can tell when it comes out of the bed, you get it out there and all that type of stuff. It's pretty, it's easy for me, but when you understand how when you understand the whole technique, I think it'll make it a lot easier for you. You still need good eyesight though, so it's a challenge for some people that just don't have good eyesight. There's people that have good eyesight like me, far vision. I got pilot vision. I got like 20/15 vision. They definitely have an advantage when you're looking at fishing type stuff, for at least for bed fishing. And then I had 3 guys. I had a group trip. I had 3 guys in my boat the day of that tournament. So the tournament was going on, and I got 3 guys in my boat, and we caught a bunch of great fish. But one of the gentlemen, he was having a hard time with the hook sets. And I will tell you that too. Look, a lot of people have the rod tip up and they're shaking it. Now, if you get a bite right then, what are you going to do? Look, and I kept telling them, you got to keep your line and your rod pointed pretty much at the fish, and then shake it that way, and then move a rattle. Whatever you're going to do, keep that line, because if it gets it, you're only going to make you second or second and a half. And we had a fish that was just like that. It's over and over again. In the mouth, out. In the mouth, out. In the mouth, out. Biting the pincers, off there. Pick it, spit it. He was just like, holy cow, where are we going to get this fish? And he kind of gave up a little bit. So I said, okay, here, I'm going to do it real quick. And I put it in there, doop, 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 and I got it. So but he had a number of hook misses. And we had a really large fish that day too. We had one female that we hooked into, and I think my customer got a good hook set into it. I think it just got down. It got deep in this grass, way deep in there, and I think it probably created its own slack and got the hook worked out. So really unfortunate, because it was a big fish. It would have been the biggest fish that we caught on that trip, those 2 days. But we got some nice ones. Biggest fish last week was 8.4. It's the biggest one. So I'm still looking for that big 10-pounder this year so far, but it just hasn't happened yet. Limited number of females on the bed, honestly. Until last week when they just came in, I couldn't see them any. There's a lot of beds out there, and I will tell you, I told somebody the other day, I've seen a couple places where there's some bluegill moving around in those areas. That lets me know there's probably some fry around where those bed areas were, but not a lot. I'm not seeing, like I will tell you right now, I have not seen a single fry cloud. I haven't seen them. So I've seen a couple fish that look like they were kind of guarding. I was telling my customers, like, it looks like maybe that fish is guarding fry because he's moving here and he's moving here, he's up there. But in the end, I don't think they were. I think there were beds that were deeper in that grass down there in those areas. So I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the fry. I think I've seen the evidence. The bluegill in the So's area is kind of going after the fry, and the bass chasing the bluegill around. So I know they're in there, but they're just not coming to the surface in the same kind of grass that we have this year. You know, it's a little different than it was last year. Last year, a lot of fry got around the tree stumps because it's all they had. There was no grass in the water. This year, they've got all this really nasty stuff, this really nasty brown stuff that you guys go on the lake, you know what I'm talking about. They can get in there and maybe we just can't see them. So they could be. There's a lot of beds out there. There's a lot of fish. But I will tell you, the full moon's coming, and I think we're just getting ready to big wave. I have a customer that he's timed it perfectly. He's going to be here all week fishing with me, and he's going to have a great time. I already know we're going to have a great time. And he comes all the way down from Minnesota, and I think it's going to be a great time fishing. So anyway, I guess I've taken enough time to do this. I just wanted to kind of talk about, you know, hey, what I'm doing and what I see for the next week. I mean, I see bed fishing all next week for the most part. And when I'm not bed fishing, I'm going to start hitting some of these points. I've seen some of the smaller shad starting to spawn back in the grass, back in the coves. And we can't be too far along here when all of a sudden we're going to start. It's not too long. Can't be too long when we're going to see these big groups of shad starting to spawn on the banks. And those birds are going to be out there, and we're going to be throwing these topwater baits and crankbaits and jerkbaits at them, and hopefully just nailing big numbers of big fish on topwater. That's what I'm hoping for. That's one of my favorite things to do. Well, look, that's all I've got for today. This is Greg Hill. Remember, at Ford Operating Base, our motto is leave no fish behind. So get out there and do some fishing. Send me an email, send me a text if you're looking for dates to come fishing out here. I've also give a shout out to my sponsors again. So my Quantum Reels are just doing awesome. My Temple Fork rods are doing great. Matter of fact, one of my customers I want to buy some of these things after he uses my stuff. You want to come in and buy it. And then, of course, my Skeeter FXR 21 from Diamond Sports Marine here in Yantas, Texas. Be sure to give those guys a call if you're looking for a boat. And look, it's great fishing out here right now. I'm having a great time. I mean, this is just, it's a little cloudy today, and I can't get out today because, I've got some other life things going on to take care of. I got daughter engaged, all that type of stuff. And, so I got some other things I got to take a couple days off for. So, look, this is Greg Hill again. You guys have a great day fishing. Enjoy your day.
Female or male?
No, it's a female.
Is that a female?
Yeah. That's too big.
Yep, that's a female.
Awesome, man. Another big fish for Henry. Yep, female. Got her? Yeah, we'll weigh her. She's pretty heavy. She's fat. That's a healthy fish. Two good females. Yeah, let's hold her out there.
Let's do this.
Ready? 1, 2. Okay, hold her sideways. Hold her more sideways.
Yeah.
Like get underneath. Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Ready? 1, 2. Okay. All right.
Caught it by a gator.
Let's weigh her.
How much is it?
Good job. And see, you've looked at that fish. You didn't look that big, right?
Yeah.
Because she's deep.
She's definitely smaller than that other one. Maybe around the same. I'm guessing like around 5.
Oh no, she's more than that.
Maybe 6.
Yep.
6.
608.
608.
Here again. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna reset it. Hold on.
I'm gonna come this way.
Right on. Yeah!
It was on that one that we were trying to get.
There you go. That's another good one. I had you on video too.
Did you?
Yeah, you guys are working as a team.
There you go.
Team effort.
There you go.
There you go. Show them up here. Let me get them out of there.
Come on, buddy. There it is.
All right, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Team effort there. All right.
Oh yeah. Get the net.
Just easy.
Spider.
Just easy. It's easy.
That's okay. Oh! Good job,
Not as
Henry.
big as we thought.
Good fish there.
Oh, it's only 5 pounds.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's another 6
Oh my
pounder.
gosh, it's only a 5 pound fish. Yeah.
Can't tell we got her.
Oh, she got it. No, she got it. Keep doing it. Reel down to it. Reel down to it. Set the hook. Harder. Yeah.
Oh, hey. Like you planned it.
Oh, that's that one you were throwing up out
Yeah.
there. I knew he'd bite it.
Finally took it. Huh?
You got it. Oh, it's not in. It's not in. Don't pull it out of there. There you go. Good job, man. Good job. I mean, it's healthy fish. Good job. Finally, took it out. Show it to the camera. Woo!